guys, Brandon here. This is Thanksgiving weekend. Today is Saturday, and I've been thinking about a certain topic that I've wanted to do a video on for a while, and that is the electric vehicle that nobody is building currently. And this has to do with like family-sized vehicles, basically people and stuff haulers. So a little background about my family experience with vehicles and stuff. I grew up in a medium-sized family. I have 3 siblings. Because of the size of our family, I grew up with fairly large cars. From the time I was probably like 8 or 9, we had Suburbans all the way up until the present. For a period of years, maybe like, I don't know, a decade or something like that, we would take a road trip from California all the way to relatives in Wisconsin, and we did that, maybe it was every other year, I don't remember, but we did it regularly, and that was, I don't know what that was, 2,500 miles each way or something like that. The first time we did it, at least that I remember, we had what was that car? I think it was like a early 1980s blue Cadillac boat, essentially. You could almost sleep in the trunk. The nose was like probably 6 or 7 feet long, at least that's what it seemed like to me. And it was 4 doors, so this was only when there was 3 of us kids. Oh, and I actually specifically remember driving through parts of the US and gas was 89 cents a gallon, I think. So you could probably peg what year that was based on... Oh, and we would take trips quite often up to the Sierras, the mountains, which would be about a 4-hour drive. And that would be like skiing trips, family vacations. And we were not the most efficient packers. Yeah, most of the time we were using our Suburban, and that thing was just packed in the back. And there's a decent amount of space even behind the 3rd row in the Suburban, and that was just packed full of luggage. Anyway, the point was, we were not a family that was going to have our needs met with a smaller car. Maybe we could have gotten along with like a minivan or something like that, but there were 6 of us people. We hauled a lot of gear. Oh, and the other thing is, we did a lot of musical stuff. Particularly on Sundays, we were playing in our church orchestra, and my dad would play the baritone, which is a sizable instrument in an even bigger case. I played the trumpet, my younger brother played the trumpet, and my older brother played either trombone or tuba. If you've ever seen a tuba case, they're not small. So packing all that stuff into a vehicle with the family on a weekly basis, you know, just having a smaller car would really impinge on activities, basically. You'd have to end up taking 2 cars or strapping a tuba to the top of the car every time, which doesn't work so well when it's raining. The point is, there is a need for large, simple vehicles that are reliable, safe, and can carry a ton of people and stuff. And currently, those vehicles are only gasoline at the moment. Their advantages are those that I just specified, what they're needed for, and also because they're big vehicles, they also tend to be quite safe. And I know there's a science behind crumple zones, and I know there's a whole separate issue as to, you know, making vehicles equally safe and what have you. That's a whole separate topic. And there's actually another category, which is basically the giant truck, which many contractors and people like electricians and builders, I mean, they rely on personally owned vehicles, usually trucks that have a lot of power, have a lot of capacity, are very durable, and can carry a ton of stuff at long range. That's a category that Tesla may be creeping into with their Tesla truck. I'm hoping that it's not just like a compact pickup like the Chevy Colorado, but it's actually like a beefy, powerful, long-distance pickup truck that can replace like a rancher's F-250 or F-350 or whatever. All that to say, Tesla is sort of hopefully going to enter that market as opposed to the category that I'm talking about, which is more suburban, basically. So we have this category of vehicle that's being used by a certain population that's sort of a market to itself. that again needs a big, long-distance, safe people and stuff hauler. Currently they're using Suburbans, large vans, minivans, some other large SUVs. The disadvantages of those vehicles obviously is that they have very large engines, they use a lot of gas, they're inefficient, and they're somewhat expensive. So the advantages of the electrified version is you shouldn't have to sacrifice. So you shouldn't have to make it a matchbox and make it the entire thing a crumple zone because it has to be so lightweight. You can still have well-designed, very good structural integrity and even mass because the batteries are heavy. It can have a ton of room because you don't need an engine and you don't need all those axles and transmissions and stuff like that, at least to the same degree. And yeah, you can still make it attractive. It doesn't have to be, like, as Elon says, a weird mobile. And it can be incredibly efficient. Obviously on the local level, where you're actually driving it, it's emission-free. Where the electricity is generated, maybe emission-free, maybe not. Either way, that can be made emissions-free eventually, even if it's not currently. The only current option that's a pure EV, as far as I know, is the Model X. There are some electric delivery vans, but those are basically just commercial vehicles, and they also don't have high range. They max out at about 100 miles, as far as I know. And that works for commercial delivery vehicles because generally they're doing that in, they're doing their business in either urban or suburban areas where you don't need a lot of range, you just need you're kind of stopping and going the entire day. So those are available, but that doesn't fit the product that's needed in this market. The largest people and cargo suburban hauler is the Model X, which you can get the 75 kilowatt hour battery, which starts at, I don't know, somewhere in the 80,000s, I think. But okay, so first of all, that's really expensive. That's an incredibly expensive minivan. And that, the cheaper version has a shorter range. So, and particularly if you live in an area that has an actual winter, like I do here, your range is going to be significantly reduced in the winter. So that makes it even shorter. Instead of, having a family vehicle that can go 300 or 400 miles without filling up, now you're down to, 75 kilowatt hour Model X. What's the range on that? I think it's 230, but you're probably going to be down to like 170 or 180 miles in the winter, at least our winters here. And I know there's the argument that, like, okay, on long trips, like, who actually drives, that far without stopping? And we did. So maybe it's not the majority of people, but people actually do travel for 2 or 3 hours without stopping. And currently you can't do that even, well, I guess you can in Tesla if you fill up, if you supercharge all the way to full every time. But you wouldn't be able to do that in the 75D. You'd have to be stopping at every supercharger, which is about every hour and a half. So it still doesn't quite fit that need. And even if it did, the Model X, if you've been in the third row, they're quasi-adult seats. If you're a very small adult, you can fit in there and be pretty comfortable. Björn has a good video with Morgan and Jürgen, both trying to fit in the third seat. Both of those guys are pretty big, probably bigger than average, so that's not typical. But it is realistic. The fact is that there's families with large people, and so saying that it's a 7-vehicle adult passenger hauler, like, yeah, kind of not. And it is true that there is more cargo space than, say, like an Audi Q7 when all the seats are up, because you have the frunk and because you have the trunk space is deeper. But that still limits it. You're comparing it to like an Audi Q7 or a BMW X6 or X5 or something like that. There's nothing yet that compares to like a Suburban that just hauls all your gear and all your people. To a certain degree. I mean, some people have more gear than that, but it's still not quite in the same category. So I'm hoping that eventually some manufacturer, maybe it's not Tesla, maybe it'll be a different one, will basically make an electric vehicle behemoth that will solve all these issues. And the key points that I think will be like high range, safe, and not a lot of whistles and bells, like very like basic. This would be a vehicle that frugal families would be interested in. They would be able to save a ton on fuel costs because it's electric. It would be very safe because you have a great crumple zone in the front. There'd be, you know, the front trunk in there, so you'd have additional cargo space. There's no transmissions going down the middle, so the bottom could be completely flat, and so you could have all that cargo space. And it's just big. It'd probably have to have, I mean, I'm thinking like 100 kilowatt hour battery minimum. You don't want to be worrying about range. You want to be able to tow something, haul a lot of gear, and still be able to have range. Sure, it can be inefficient. Who cares if it uses like, you know, even a kilowatt like per mile or something like that, which would be like crazy high. But the point is, even if it's inefficient, it would be able to go far and carry all your stuff and still be comfortable. And also it would not need, you know, tons of whistles and bells. You know, it doesn't matter if it has, you know, falcon wing doors. You can, you know, maybe even a sliding door or just conventional doors. That's fine too, with seats that like fold down really easily, so there's accessibility everywhere. Doesn't have to have crazy moon or sunroofs or, you know, stuff like that. It doesn't have to go 0 to 60 in you know, under 3 seconds. You know, who cares? My Model S goes 0 to 60 in a little bit over 5, and I think it's plenty powerful. If you've ever driven a Suburban, unless it's some souped up one, they don't accelerate like crazy. They're more functional. It's more a functional thing. Can I haul everything? Can I be safe? And can I tow? That's basically why you buy a Suburban. And another thing about the current EVs, the drag coefficient, they're trying to get that down as far as possible. That there's always a, you know, it's very angled in the front, which is fine. There's plenty of room in the front front seats. But then as you go back, let's go this way. Yeah. As you go to the back of the car, it slopes and slopes, and so that's why even in the Model S, like I can't sit upright in the second row of the Model S seats because they're just too small. The roof comes down and my head actually hits, so I can't sit very comfortably back there. So I think there's definitely a market for a long-range, comfortable, and durable electric box. I think it's true, like the majority of transportation will probably go electric, but this is one of the examples where the product to replace the current product and improve upon it has not been developed yet. But I've been thinking this a little bit more because, you know, in the back of my mind, you know, I'm thinking about family vehicles and thinking about whether a Model X would serve that purpose and stuff. And for the most part, a Model X would, but again, the disadvantages are it's just super expensive and it's way out of the average family's price range. It also is actually a little bit small relative to the large family vehicles that are available out there. So room for improvement. Tesla is just one company and they are doing amazing things with their current projects now. There's a limit to how many things, you know, they can do all at once. And you know, at the meetings, I think somebody once brought up, like asked Elon if, like, you know, are they going to start doing boats and maritime transport? And I mean, that would be awesome, but it's a whole nother world. Like there's no way they could do that project now. And I think Elon hesitated for a while, but he's like, you know, if nobody ends up doing boats, then we'll do boats. But you know, Model 3 is coming, and that's going to be revolutionary because that's you know, the Model 3 is going to deliver a product that is highly desired in a population that is excluded from the Model S currently, mainly because of price. So with each new product, they're going to satisfy a different part of the market and with the vehicle that they need. And I think that will happen with other categories. So yeah, I think we're off to a great start with Tesla's vehicles. It's always exciting, the new stuff that they're making. Model 3 is coming up, as I just said, and then the truck I'm really excited to see what that design is. Like I said, I hope it's big and beefy, and I also hope it's very different from the Model X and the Model S. You know, there's always people that try to come up with their own concepts and kind of hybridize like what Franz has already come out with and project it onto the new vehicle, and it just never looks good on a truck. Trucks, I've never seen like a sleek, windswept pickup truck that looked good. It looked like it was a car trying to be a pickup truck. So I think there's a big design challenge there in transferring what's needed for an electric vehicle, but still maintaining the core essences that make a truck desirable to use, as well as, you know, visually appealing. Either way, it's exciting to see what they come up with, and more of these kind of vehicles will be attainable as the Gigafactory comes online and batteries become cheaper and cheaper. Musk and JB have said multiple times that, you know, the improvement rate per cost is like, or per weight, I forget which one, but anyway, it's somewhere between like 3 to 5% a year, which also translates to about a doubling of capacity every 10 years, which is great. So in another 10 years, you know, you could have a 200 kilowatt hour battery, which would be perfect. Exciting times. This video is kind of long, sorry about that, but it's kind of fun to just talk about these topics and talk about the new markets that can be penetrated with electric vehicles and new technology. If you made it all the way to this part, thank you very much for watching. And any questions, comments, or ideas about this, or maybe somebody's actually been working on this project, some company, and I'm not aware of it, definitely let me know in the comments below. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving everybody, and I'll see you in the next video.